Missing the ship is every cruiser's worst nightmare, and with 10 minutes to spare, it was about to happen to us. This is the story of how a third-party snorkeling excursion in Grand Cayman almost left us stranded, and the lessons every independent cruiser needs to hear. Hi, I'm Brian from the Independent Cruiser. I'm about to share our story, exactly what happened, where I went wrong as an experienced independent cruiser, and the lessons learned so you don't make the mistakes we did. So we were on the NCL Escape on a Caribbean cruise going to Grand Cayman. My family really wanted to do something a little different rather than just go to the beach. So I was researching different things and I found out about Stingray City, which is this amazing spot where, according to local legend, the fishermen used to go to this sandbar and clean their catch for the day and head in. And the stingrays would gather there to get all the scraps from the fishermen. So then it became a bit of a tourist attraction where you can go and just walk on this sandbar and this beautiful pristine water surrounded by stingrays. Pretty amazing experience. So I started doing my research and I found Norwegian offered a shore excursion that went to Stingray City and then had a snorkeling tour at a local reef. But then I was on Viator and I found several companies offered tours to Stingray City, the Coral Garden Reef, and a place called Starfish Point where you could just see tons of starfish. And that sounded pretty good to me. There wasn't a lot of difference in price, so that really wasn't a factor as to why I chose the Viator excursion over the NCL shipboard excursion. Now, the timing looked pretty reasonable. We were going to pick up the tour at the port at noon and return at 3:30, an hour and a half before our last tender at 5 p.m. So this was my first mistake. I normally give myself a 2-hour buffer when I'm off doing things on my own, but I figured 90 minutes was close enough. We got picked up for our tour right on time at noon. There were about 50 people from our ship on this same tour. They loaded us all into minivans, and it was about a 20-minute drive to the marina to catch the boat to take us on our tour. Now, the first little red flag was when we got on the boat at 12:30, the captain said we would be back to the pier by 3:30. Not back to the cruise terminal as originally advertised at 3:30, but back to the pier. I still was thinking, okay, this is fine. We'll still be back with an hour to spare. No big deal. Headed out, it was beautiful. I mean, beautiful, crystal clear water. It couldn't have been better. It was about a 30-minute drive out to Stingray City. And my family and I, we were like the first ones in the water, and we were loving it. And you can see, you're just surrounded by stingrays. It was truly amazing swimming and interacting with these stingrays. It was just an incredible experience and highly recommended. And this is where the time really started slipping. Rather than being there for a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that, we were there for over an hour. And here's what happened. Like I said, there were about 50 people from our ship on the excursion. And the boat crew had a little side hustle, and that was taking pictures of people with the stingrays, interacting with the stingrays, and then they would sell you the pictures for $40 on the boat. So the end result is we stayed there over an hour and didn't actually depart Stingray City until 2:05 p.m. So we were only 1/3 of the way through the tour with, by their calculation, an hour and a half to go. Now, it was a quick 10-minute run over to Coral Garden, and my family, we brought our own snorkeling gear, so we were right away in the water snorkeling. But already, people were getting nervous on the tour and asking the captain, are we going to make it back in time? You could already see the tension building among the other passengers. I still wasn't worried about it yet because I figured these guys know what they're doing. We'll be back 3:30. This just must be the normal timing. I will say we had a great time on this excursion, but it was really ruined for a lot of people who already were nervous about missing the ship. So we had a great time. We snorkeled, we saw beautiful fish, we saw the coral, but there was another delay while the crew handed out all of the snorkeling gear to all of the passengers. So some of the passengers who were last in line waiting for gear, they only got maybe 10, 15 minutes tops in the water because they were at the end of the line, and it was quite a process for these two crewmen to hand out all of the snorkeling equipment. So we ended up staying at Coral Garden for 45 minutes. This brings us to 3 p.m. And now I'm starting to think, are we really going to be able to make it to Starfish Point and back in 30 minutes? I don't think so. So we get everybody loaded up. We depart Coral Garden at 3 p.m. and it's a 15-minute run to Starfish Point. So we don't get there until 3:15. So at this point, the time is really slipping, and I've just kind of come to peace with the fact that we're going to be cutting it close. But some people, they were so upset, they didn't even get off the boat at Starfish Point. They were so upset and so nervous about missing the ship. But credit to my family, you can see this picture was taken at 3:30. My wife and daughter are just smiling. They're having the best time. We found so many starfish. It was just amazing. So we just embraced it. We just took the attitude, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I still in the back of my mind thought we're going to make it, but it's going to be close. So we just made the best of it. We just enjoyed it. But again, a lot of people were very, very upset and constantly back and forth with the captain about leaving. And even after all of that, we stayed for 30 minutes at Starfish Point. We didn't leave till 3:45. Now they assured us it would be fine. It was a 30-minute run back to the pier. We'd be there at 4:15, 15-minute run back to the pier. No big deal, 30 minutes to spare. We do the run back to the marina, and there is a boat taking our spot in the marina. We have no place to dock. So if we get there at 4:15 and there is a boat in no seeming hurry sitting in our spot, there are no spots to dock, and we just sit right, 20 feet from the pier waiting for someone to leave so we can dock. That was the longest 20 minutes. I mean, it was really, really tense. Now, it was kind of funny, my family dynamic. I immediately went into problem solving mode. I got on my phone and I'm just checking what are the flights from Cayman to our next port in Jamaica, right? We'll just, whenever we get back, hopefully the harbor master will have our passports. We'll figure out a place to stay and we'll fly to Jamaica that night or the next day. I found out there is a once a day morning flight from Grand Cayman to Jamaica, in case this ever happens to you. And my wife and daughter, they just watched the drama because at this point, people are super, super upset and really going at it with the captain and the crew. And there's nothing they can do except shout to the boat to please leave so they can get in. So we sat there for 20 minutes. 4:35, we pull in. Everybody makes a beeline for the buses, and we can see the buses have been sitting there waiting for us, these vans. Get in the van, and our driver, bless his heart, he was great. I mean, 4:35, he just took off, and I mean, he was taking back streets and everything. But it's like I said to my wife, we're one fender bender away from missing the ship, because if anything had happened in this traffic, or if there had been an accident ahead, if we'd been involved in an accident, we were just done for. We got to the cruise terminal at 4:52 p.m. and we hopped in line. We got the last passenger tender, and the other people in our group took the very last tender with the ship's crew that was on shore with the pop-ups and coolers and all of that kind of stuff. So it was close. Now, before I talk about the big red flag I missed, if you've had a similar experience or actually missed your ship or come close, please share that in the comments below. And if you're finding value in this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. So the red flags I ignored and my lessons learned for you. I give myself a 2-hour buffer for a reason. When you're out exploring on your own, the ship will leave you. You just have to build that in because you never know what happens. If I had had a 2-hour buffer and we had been in a car accident, we could have just got out and taken a cab the rest of the way to the port or walked it or whatever. But we didn't have that buffer. So that was my first mistake, is violating my 2-hour buffer rule and only going with 90 minutes. So my main red flag that I missed is whenever I go on to book a third-party excursion, like through a Viator or a Get Your Guide, I always read the reviews, right? I read the 5-star reviews to hear about people's great experience. I also read the 1-star reviews to see what has gone wrong for people in the past. And when I reviewed this tour operator, there were a number of 1-star reviews, but they all had to do with cancellations due to the weather. So I went through maybe the first 10, and they were all weather cancellations people were complaining about, which, weather happens. If I had gone down a little further, I would have come across this post, Cruisers Beware. And it was someone who had nearly an identical experience to what we had, where they didn't make it back till 4:40, the tour ran late, and they were very upset about it. Now that was bad enough, but then the tour operator responded and they were very nonchalant about it. Oh, the ship's not going to leave you. They just tell you that to scare you. Ships will leave you. Ships will leave you. So if I had seen that review, I would have hopped over and looked at some other tour operators, because when I did that later, I found many that did not have a similar complaint about time management. So that was the big red flag that even me, the experienced, independent cruiser, missed. Now, my advice, what would I have done differently? I think what I would have done differently is just taken the shipboard excursion. While we had an amazing time at Starfish Beach, I've kind of come to the conclusion that if you're going to take a tour anyway, and unless it's a significant cost savings, I would just take the shipboard excursion and not have the stress of worrying about missing your ship, because that is a guarantee they give you. You will not miss the ship if your excursion is running late. So I think that would have just made it more relaxing for everyone. I'm really glad we got to go see Starfish Point though. So I have a little mixed feelings about that. And I'm not someone who normally takes a shipboard excursion. In my whole history of cruising over the past 20 plus years, I've taken exactly 2 shipboard excursions. But if you're in a spot where you can't do something on your own, like I couldn't have rented a boat and taken my family out snorkeling at Stingray City, then I think a shipboard excursion makes sense, particularly if you are somebody that is really nervous about missing the ship. Again, hats off to my family for just rolling with the punches and still having a great day, but that's probably my biggest takeaway for you. If it involves water, a long distance, it's something you can't do on your own, you have to take a tour anyway, I would give a serious look at the shipboard excursion. Now, would this experience in any way dissuade me from doing shore excursions on my own? Absolutely not, because I'm in control of that situation. I do all my planning, do my transportation, I go see what I want to see, and I have my 2-hour buffer when I return. But if you're turning yourself over to someone else, do a lot of due diligence if you're going with a third party, or just do that shipboard excursion with that guarantee that the ship won't leave you. Now, if you've had a similar experience, if you've nearly missed your ship or actually missed your ship, I would love to hear about that in the comments. And again, if you found value in this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button.